2020. The global population stood at a little over 5 billion. It's now over half that again, measuring 7.6 billion. So where is it growing fastest, and will it ever slow down? We've taken a look at a few of the numbers. Let's take a look at them here on our Super Bowl and see some of the numbers we have here as we celebrate the World Population Day. So the estimation of our ballooning population in the world is 7.5 billion as at 24th of April 2017, meaning we're about 8 billion in the world. So 83 million people are being added to the world's population every year. And definitely that is what we owe to that very big population we have in the world of about 8 billion. Now, the global population is expected to reach 8.6 billion in 2030. So if we are expected to be at 8.6 billion in 2030, it means in 2050 we will be at 9.8 billion people in the world, and at 2100 we will be at 11.2 billion people. The number keeps going higher, but by about, say, 2 billion or 1.5 billion every 10 or 20 years. So some fun facts here. 50.4% of the world's population is male. 49.6% of the world's population is female. Not a very big gap we have there. The medium age of so 214 million women of reproductive age are not using family planning, and that is the conversation we will be having here with my guests. Globally, the use of modern contraception has risen from 54% in 1990 to 57.4% in 2015. So there's a rising number of the kind of modern contraception that is used, but still we have about 214 million million women in the world who are not using contraception. Let's now get into that discussion with my panelists here, very knowledgeable about the topic of discussion this morning. Once again, thank you very much for joining us. Assumpta Matekwa is from JPEGO. We have Colin Dick, who's the Managing Director of DKT Healthcare in Kenya and Uganda, as well as Judith Konyeha, the Assistant UNFPA Representative to Kenya. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming in. A normal Kenyan would be wondering, why is this day very important, and why is family planning so crucial? I'll start with you, Assumpta.
Thank you so much, Lillian.
It's Akisa.
Akisa.
Yes.
Akisa.
Yes.
Now, we are very interested in family planning issues, especially for today, because we realize, as you see the figures are going, the world is almost exploding, and Kenya is not left behind. It's one of them. And that goes along with so many other advantages, of course, and we need to look at the disadvantages. The bits about economy, we need to look at the resources that we have versus the number of people that we are putting into this country. Yeah. And of course, when it comes to family planning, that is now where I am interested in. Would like to position family planning as a priority in our activities in Kenya, so that we manage the population, so that it doesn't go as fast as it's moving. Of course, we are not saying people should not give birth, but we need to control within the available resources. So family planning, especially when you look at the number of youths, teenagers giving birth, it has a lot of risk. We are losing mothers, and if a mother dies during pregnancy and childbirth, that mother is not likely to take care of her baby. So the life of the baby is equally in danger. So chances are that the child will not survive. So we need to look at this woman to give birth to the number of children she may be able to manage with her resources, and also space these children to give room for the other child to grow and mature in the correct way.
All right.
Thank
Colin, for you at DKT, we know that you deal a lot with issues to do with family planning. What are you doing to bridge this gap? Because there's an unmet, there's this gap on the number of women who need family planning, contraceptive methods, but they cannot access it. What are you doing as DKT?
I think DKT's main interest in entering the markets in East Africa is to really try to increase the basket of choice and to help to bolster and develop the private sector. The work that my colleague at UNFPA does and the government of Kenya with trying to serve everyone in the country is next to impossible. The budget's just not there, and as funding gets tighter and tighter, the problem's going to get worse and worse if we don't develop a private sector, if we don't develop choice and develop brands that people seek out and trust and want to really understand and have a relationship with a brand. You know, in a lot of countries, a woman's birth control is like their best friend. So we want that to be the same type of thing here in Kenya, and really give women a lot of different choices.
So what do you think that there needs to be massive cooperation between the government and the private sector for this to be achieved?
Absolutely. I mean, the government thus far, in the time that we've been in Kenya, has been incredibly supportive of the work that we're doing. We're not getting in each other's way at all. And you know, I think they've the folks at the Ministry of Health that I've interacted with have been very good at creating an enabling environment. Have not tried to stonewall us or challenge us in really any way. And PPB's been very good, the regulatory body, with getting things through relatively quickly. And then just as we go and develop brands, I think we'll see how things continue to develop. We want to try to demystify some of these things. Yeah. A lot of these myths and misconceptions are a little outdated, and hopefully we can try to help overcome some of those things.
He talks about the myths surrounding family planning. Judy, from UNFPA, I know you've worked a lot with women in the country and beyond, and the myths that surround family planning. Do you think this is the major hindrance towards them taking a step for voluntary family planning? Because I know that Kenya is part of the Family Planning 2020 initiative.
Yes. Good morning, and thank you for inviting us. I'd first start by acknowledging the FP 2020 meeting summit that is happening in London, and also to recognize that this was co-convened by UNFPA. Our late Executive Director, Professor Babatunde Osotimehen, who passed away suddenly last month, was a champion for family planning. And really, UNFPA has been left a legacy to work in family planning, voluntary family planning, and to make sexual and reproductive health accessible to all that are in need. So that said, Kenya is a very interesting country because we surpassed, the Kenyan government surpassed the target that was set for FP 2020, which was 56%, and we were able to achieve a 58% contraceptive prevalence rate. That is the number of women of reproductive age that have and use contraception. And for this, we were commended and we received an Excel Award in 2016. So we do have pockets in Kenya where the contraceptive prevalence is very high, our champion county being Kirinyaga, for example. And then you have counties where the prevalence is really low, such as in the northeast, Mandera, where it is about 2%. And really the barriers to this are socio-cultural barriers where, for whatever reasons, women that are particular to that area, women are unable to access these products and services because of myths, because of cultural beliefs, and sometimes because of faith, religious beliefs. So we work with community leaders, we work with faith-based organizations to discuss this issue of family planning. And it's really an issue of engaging the communities that we are talking to in a language that they understand. So when we're in Mandera, for example, we talk about child spacing, we talk about the health of the mother, the health of the child, and also talk about the growth and the prosperity that we all aspire to. So if we want this to happen, one of the key and critical development agendas and issues we need to undertake is to plan our families and to provide women, young girls, and the community at large with information on how they can do this, how they can all cooperate, and how we can achieve this goal, so that we have the number of children we want, when we want them. We allow women to engage in the economic field. We allow men to also participate in this, and that way we have a healthier community that is able to contribute to the society.
What are some of the initiatives that are there or we need to undertake to ensure that we bridge that gap and we control population vis-a-vis the high economic growth?
Okay, I will speak of some of the projects that we're running. About 3 years ago, the University of Nairobi undertook a study. It was a secondary analysis of the national census, the 1999 census, and identified 15 counties that had the highest maternal death burden. Now, maternal death is closely related to family planning, and of these, the UN H6 partners led by UNFPA, that's WHO, UN Women, UN AIDS, the World Bank, have I missed any? I hope not. And UNICEF, work to intervene in the first 6 of those 15 where they have the highest burden. So 50% of the maternal mortality in Kenya can be attributed to those 6 counties that we're working in. And these are Lamu, Mandera, Isiolo, Marsabit, Wajir, and Migori. And in this, we are looking at a holistic project where we are not just addressing family planning, we're addressing reproductive, maternal, newborn, child, adolescent health. And family planning is a critical pillar to this. So we have community engagement where we work with the structures that are already on ground. We have a community strategy in the health system where we have community health workers that are then linked to the first level of health facilities, which are level 2, what we used to call dispensaries. We also work with the county governments and the technical people at the county government to support them in terms of creating policy and an enabling environment. We partner with other partners, some of whom, JPIGO, DKT, and in other fora in the specific counties. From a national perspective, we are also supporting the national government in developing the costed implementation plan for family planning. Now, this is a very important tool because this is really what is going to drive the agenda for Kenya on how they're then going to achieve the next milestone. I think it is important that we aim at getting the next Excel award for surpassing our achievements. So supporting the Ministry of Health, and they're working in collaboration with NCPD, the National Council for Population and Development. They're working with the Council of Governors and other stakeholders, some of whom you can see seated here. And we're working to have a national framework on how we're going to deliver family planning nationally. The next step will then be to develop county-specific ones that are going to be addressing the specific situations in the counties, so that together the 47 pieces join together to make one piece that is going to help us make that jump.
Okay. Assumpta, what is the link between family planning and economic growth? Because it seems it's for every economy to grow, you need to control your population. But what is the link for family planning?
Now, we have a lot in terms of the support that the government is putting towards family planning. What my colleague has mentioned here is what is the government already doing to invest to ensure that family planning is already coming on top of things. Allocation of funds towards family planning activities, the people's commitment towards supporting family planning, and also the issues around the myths and misconceptions, so that we are not denying anybody the chance to access family planning, of course voluntary, but this person who is already engaged in sexual activities needs to be sure that I will get the baby only when I need them. So in terms of economy, we are seeing a lot of relationship between family planning and economic growth, because it is actually family planning that will help our economy to grow. If I will give an example of, let's say, how much we are spending on education, how much we are spending in terms of hospitalization, managing the conditions. For example, if this child is sick, if this woman is unwell, they are going to the hospitals. And of course, the government is spending a lot of money into making sure that there is enough treatment. You can see the free education, the free... I am sure the government would save a lot if those numbers were controlled, because we would be talking about fewer children in schools, and also even the parents, if they go through their education very well, they will be able to sustain themselves rather than depending on the government resources.
So if family planning is achievable, then economic growth, it's like they work in tandem.
Yes. Exactly. There is a lot of relationship. And you can see, of course, from the countries where they have managed their population. Look at Japan, for example. What is the total fertility rate? And look at the economic status for that country. There is a lot of common...
All right, you were saying something.
I mean, we look at Kenya and most of Africa. I believe more than half of the population is under the age of 25. And if you start having children at the age of 15, you never get to engage in the economy, because particularly with women, so often in this culture is that they're stuck at home. They never get to finish school. They never get to have any type of micro entrepreneurship or anything to speak of, and then you're cutting half of your population off before they ever even get the chance to thrive. So it's just in introducing that choice and that ability to engage in family planning, because we don't really have a choice of whether people engage in sex or not. You can't outlaw sex. I mean, we've outlawed a lot of funny things in Kenya, but we can't outlaw that one. So I think it's people are going to engage. Let's try to enable them to access and have a lot of different choices and have some education. I think that's another thing that's a glaring opportunity that the government needs to finally pass comprehensive sexual education in schools.
Colin, yes, just
I think that is a very important aspect, especially when you're talking about young people and adolescents. It is important that they understand what it is that is going on. When you're changing to become an adult, what are these movements I'm seeing in my body, I'm feeling? And just recently, we know that the government has been working really hard on changing the curriculum, revising the curriculum, and we now have family health, family life education that has now been incorporated in the new curriculum. And this is very important, because this is when young people start to understand who they are, what their bodies are doing, and start to understand what the consequences of some of the choices they make are, and how they can protect themselves from some of the negative consequences.
But there's also the controversial issue of availing family planning or contraceptives to young people, that it increases teenage pregnancies. How do you approach this as stakeholders?
The evidence actually does not show that. The evidence globally does not show that. When a person is informed, it does not mean that they then run to do it. What it means that when the event does come to pass, they're able to make choices that are knowledgeable, safe, and good for them, so that they're able to continue to aspire to what it is that they want to. But the evidence globally is to the contrary. Teaching them does not mean that you are now encouraging them and that you're availing these things to them.
Yes.
I mean, so you understand there's a difference. So having the education is more important than having young people walking around and not understanding what the issues are, particularly pertaining to their body. They're therefore not able to make informed decisions about themselves.
Okay. Colin, DKT is in about 20 countries, and I would like to know what are the challenges in terms of access to the various family planning methods? We have cultural issues in a number of the African countries. North Nigeria is at war, and Boko Haram has closed all avenues where young people would have access. So how do you approach this?
Sure. I've got a good friend of mine who's this very interesting Greek gentleman who's been living in Nigeria for 15 years, and they don't. Unfortunately, they're not able to work in the States in the north of Nigeria. They've been operating in Nigeria for about 5 years now. The impact has been tremendous. They've built strong brands. People come to them. and choice is growing daily. It's the challenge where you can't. I mean, I would never want to put my staff or my team members in harm's way. So you just got to be really careful about how you go and operate. I think that's a bit of an extreme example, though. I mean, in other parts of Francophone West Africa, we operate in historically or dominant Muslim countries with really no challenges at all, and oftentimes it's very welcomed because people are really suffering. I mean, if they really have no access to family planning products, and men and women and couples, married, unmarried, they want to not have as many children, and it's just we need to be there. It's not. You'd be surprised how wide the arms are open to welcome us to the countries.
Finally, Assumpta, it is seen that family planning is all about women. What is the role of men here, and do we have a rise in the uptake of male contraceptives?
Well, the role of men is very crucial. As you know, the men in our society are actually we normally say they are the owners of the resources. But what we are doing as JAPIGO under the TCI project, the Challenge Initiative, we are engaging the counties, the county government. We have some funds from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and we are doing business with the county government. And our business is that unusual approach, entrepreneurship like. We are requesting the counties to come up for as self-select themselves to work with us. Having known what we have some money, but our take is, can we put things on the table? Yeah. You understand your gaps, your challenges, like my colleagues have said, but maybe the challenge the government has not been able to do is to allocate the money according to the Abuja Declaration. We see the county still getting about 6% allocations toward health, and it's actually entirely the health package. But focusing on family planning, we don't have specific allocations toward family planning. So far, since we started working with TCI, we have engaged the counties, and we are seeing about 15 counties who have already put some money on the table. And they have identified their gaps. Their main gaps, as we can see, most of them are saying the men are in control. The women are not taking decisions over their own health. And of course, they have fears that if I don't do this, my man will leave me, or I'll not get the kind of support that I'm getting. So one of our concerns is to do advocacy and a lot of community awareness and engage the men rather than just involve them. We want to engage them to take the leadership role. Our men in leadership, starting from the top leadership, our president, our governors, our MCS, they are the ones who have the voice. They need to speak about family planning. But before they do that, we have to give them the information. They have to understand whether it is about the numbers, you know, the tyranny of numbers, or it's about this voter who will be able to make an informed decision even about the voting.
Wow. Yeah. Something that comes out, information is paramount about family planning. Yes. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Assumpta Matekwa is from JAPIGO. We have Colin Dick, the Managing Director, DKT Healthcare, Kenya and Uganda, as well as Judith Kunyeha, Assistant UNFPA Representative to Kenya. Always a pleasure having you here on Worldview. Many thanks for coming in. And we close that discussion on that note. Let's take a look at another story here. Senegal is a country where many lack access to medicine, and yet